Comes down to it and the food shortage really hits, which for the record, I don't really think it is right now, but if it does, there's a few crops that I just have to have in my garden, and there's a couple criteria they have to meet. One, they have to be able to have good long storage. Two, they have to be diverse, able to use in multiple meals in different ways. And three, and this can be on the fence a little bit though, is can they be preserved in multiple ways for even longer storage? So this is the spring/winter edition of, let's just call it food shortage crops or just in case crops. I want to say this before we get started. Just because we're going to talk about these crops doesn't mean that these are all the only crops you should grow. That's not what we're saying at all. So don't think that. But these will have more prevalence in our garden, and I'm calling these essential edibles. So we're going to go through, and first I want to show you this garlic. So we planted it a week ago, 7 days ago, and check this out. 7 days ago, and it's already a couple inches above the ground. So that's crazy. That's what I call fast growth. I do believe it was time to put that in the garden. But we've also started a bunch of other things, and right behind me, right in the same bed, but one row over, we did a bunch of kohlrabi. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite make our list, but garlic does. So garlic is great, it's flavor, it's a medicine, it's got a lot of medicinal properties, it's easy to grow, and plus you start it in the wintertime, so you're always getting a jump start on your growing season. So garlic is right up there. And I mean, it stores easily by, I mean, as we know, just sticking it in the cabinet. Come through, we grow a lot of greens around here, and I'm trying to find the right one to show you. And one of the ones that we grow a lot of is cabbage. And so cabbage is great. I mean, check it out. So this cabbage plant we started in this pot. We put lettuce around it, and then we also I just came in today and transplanted these from the greenhouse out here. These are more kohlrabi. I'm gonna have a lot of kohlrabi this year, which is, I don't know if it's fortunate or not fortunate, but cabbage is a really, really good one. First, it doesn't take a lot of space. You can generally plant every 12 to 18 inches roughly, depending on how tightly you want to pack them in. So you can get a lot in. We all know that cabbage will store for a long time in the refrigerator without doing anything. You can make kimchi with it. You can make sauerkraut with it. It's used in multiple recipes. It's really good in soups. Just cook it down and it just melts in your mouth. It's really good and it's very nutritious. And it's a great crop to have. So just having that, and it's a relatively short growing period for it. So if you start it from seed and we transplant it out, generally speaking, about 60 days. Now my garden's a little bit longer because we don't get as much sun, so things are a lot slower. But that being said, with the storage time and everything, this one is really high on the list. So if we come into the greenhouse, we've got a couple things going on in here. And one of them is our rutabaga. So it's just getting going. I watered it, so it's all laying down right now, but it'll perk up. But this is another one. It is a little bit longer to grow. Rutabaga will give you a nice big root. You can store it in the refrigerator for up to a month almost without eating it. Not to mention, and this is key, you can really leave it in the ground too for a little bit and then harvest it. So that's, I mean, you can store it without even bringing it in your house. Now you do have to be careful because it will start to get a little woody and stuff like that. So you got to be careful of that. But we use it for like mashed potatoes, we put it in soups and stuff like that. There's a lot of different ways you can use it. And with the rutabaga, I would also let turnips fall under that. And also you could kind of throw in kohlrabi a little bit with that. But those three, and especially the turnips, they really store for a long time. So you really get a big bang for your buck. Now the one benefit that turnips has over rutabaga is the turnips will actually, you can get more in a space and they grow quicker. So remember that if you're trying to decide what to grow. So another one for the season that we're in now would be carrots. Carrots are great. They have a long storage life. If you put them in the refrigerator, you dry them, you wash them, and then you store them dried, they'll last a while. And we absolutely love canning our carrots. So We found out that we can can carrots, you just can them in water, and then it's the way you cook with them. So, I mean, you eat them in salads. We make maple syrup carrots a lot. We can use it in different casseroles, stuff like that. We put it in coleslaw. You can even shred it and put it in your sauerkraut too. So pickled carrots, there's all kinds of ways you can use them. And this is another one that we can just let sit in our garden. Just be mindful that if it gets too big, you can either split or it could actually get a little bit woody too. But carrots are great, and we grow these in our area in fall, through winter, and into spring. So there's only really one season that we don't grow carrots here. I thought a helicopter was gonna go by, so I had to stop. Now with carrots, you also have parsnips. And parsnips are not, in my mind, personally, they're not as diverse, but you get the same thing where you can leave them in the ground longer and they grow through the winter as long as you get them a jump start. So they're really great. And you can fit so many of these in 1 square foot. Carrots, you put 16 in a square foot. Parsnips, you can put 8 in a square foot. So these things really go well with this whole mindset of like, how can we use these vegetables in multiple ways and really have them so they're easy to store. Another one, we do grow lettuce and kale and all that stuff, and all that's great. And there's a couple greens that we do definitely like to grow in the winter, and it's because 1, they're super frost tolerant, and 2, you can use them in multiple ways. And you can them. I have not done that, but you can freeze them as well. And they can sit on the plant in my area throughout the winter, and then you can harvest them. Kale is definitely one of them. We've had our kales go straight through, I would say probably 19-degree weather with no issues. Gets a little bit burnt on the edges, but this one has been through 28 degrees and it doesn't even stop. So that's really gonna be a big plus. The other one is gonna be collards. So collards is a great one to grow. It's super frost tolerant. This one had a little bit of overwatering issues, and it looks like now it may have a pest on it, even though I don't see it, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. But they're super frost tolerant, and they can grow straight through the winter here, no issues at all, and into the spring. So you're getting multiple seasons, and then you're also having to where these leaves can sit on the plant and not really affect the taste. And you can cut and come again on both of these too. So you can take a couple leaves, leave the middle, it'll grow back, and then you can eat them. I will throw radishes in on there just because, and the only reason was because they're super quick to grow. So if you get good sun and you can get them to germinate in the fall, you can have multiple sowings of radishes, and we eat radishes throughout the winter. Now they're not as diverse, but because they're so quick, it's a really good one to have. The only real downside to radishes that I've found is if you want to save seeds, it's really hard because they don't really produce a lot of seeds per plant. So you have to have multiple ones, but that's not really part of what we're talking about here. Yeah, it's been successful in growing these, and I'm having a better looking year so far. But our Brussels sprouts, they could possibly be one too if we could get them to the right size. And I think I know next year what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna plant them a lot earlier. And if we can get, you know, a full size plant full of Brussels sprouts, then that's gonna be another one that we can add to the list. That's one that, it'll store a little bit like cabbage, so you get a little bit longer. It's not as long as cabbage, but also as it gets cooler, you can leave them on there so you don't have to be in a super big rush to harvest your Brussels sprouts. So leaving them in the garden can be, you know, be a benefit. Now, we do grow all of these plants in our gardens in fall and winter and spring. So we're growing them, and it's funny because we live in the South, but we mostly grow, if you look at numbers and the amounts of plants we grow and time in the dirt, we grow a lot of these cool season vegetables way more than we do our summer vegetables. So it's interesting to think that. And now one that I don't have in my garden yet, but my last video talked about it, would be onions. So onions is going to be a really good one. And it's because you can plant it now and you let it grow. It's used in everything. And then all you do is dry it. You set it out and dry it, and it has a long storage life. So that's another one for this time of year. Now, we do grow a lot of this, but I would not recommend this. And so that would be broccoli. So you see we didn't space our broccoli quite right. We had a couple issues this year. I was sick and I had a lot of die off and stuff like that. So if you look, like we could put another broccoli in the middle, but the problem is you get one head of broccoli here, one head here, you know, you're not going to get a whole lot. And it really takes multiple heads to feed our family. So even though we have, let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 8 plants in this bed, that's only maybe 5 meals for our family if we got them all to go at once. So we do grow them, but we don't grow them as much. And in the next year, you're gonna see that we're gonna focus this and we're gonna call them the essential edibles. So these are, like I said, the crops that last longest, that grow, they get big, you can use them in a lot of different ways and multiple meals. And a lot of these, if you think about what we've talked about, they're staples in a lot of meals and they can be used multiple times. So we're gonna focus more on growing those and less on growing some of, I don't want to call them exotic because they're not, but I would think of it mostly as, you know, one-use crops. You know, we do enjoy watermelons, so we'll grow some watermelons, but we won't grow as much. You know, we're going to focus more on our onions and our carrots going into spring because those are the ones that are going to last the longest, and then we can have those. And we'll grow stuff like peas and stuff like that, and they're a really good one, but they just don't really do it for me on the diversity scale. Or the storage, to be honest. So if I've missed anything that you feel like really just needs to be mentioned, please let us know in the comments, because this is all for my zone in 8A. But you know, as you get to other zones, there's other crops that you can grow. Like there's some stuff that I can't even grow here. So that is definitely an issue. But if I've missed something, then definitely speak up about it. And look, I know that broccoli makes side shoots, but I'm not trying to just leave it in the ground if I can put something else in its place to get a couple side shoots. Still, if I don't have anything else to go in its place, then I'll leave it to maybe try and get a couple side shoots. But for the most part, I don't do that. So I know that I'm going to hear about that. But if there's anything else that I missed, you guys please let me know. I would be curious to know what you think is a staple, essential edible for your garden in case there was like a food shortage or something like that.